Dr. Pitambar Sir, founder Botany for You, and my dear all students. A very good afternoon to you all. Today I am going to deal with global environmental change, which comes under applied ecology of Unit 10 Ecological Principles. As you know that nowadays climate is changing every day due to COVID-19. In this chapter, we will discuss about different aspects of global environmental change, different types of sources behind climate change, acid rain, global warming effect, ozone depletion, etc. Let's start with the concept of global environmental change. The Earth's environment is dynamic and always changing through a natural cycle. What the world is more worried about is that the changes that are occurring today have been speeded up because of man's activities. These changes are being studied by scientists all over the world who are finding evidence from tree rings, pollen samples, ice cores, and sea sediments. The global environmental change is global in impact, not in sources. This is a problem that is absolutely impossible for either a single nation or a single area to resolve. These environmental changes in the wake of already depleting world resources will naturally lead to magnifying the already prevailing problems. In fact, environmental tensions are said to be both a cause and consequence of political tensions and international disputes. We will first discuss about the climate change, then greenhouse effect, ozone depletion, and acid rain. So, if we see the climate change, you know that the 21st century in this global has been experiencing many unprecedented natural phenomena causing great threat to human survival. The most popular threat that we are experiencing at this stage is climate change. The impact of the climate change on the earth has adverse effects on the structure and functions of ecosystems. Climate is an integral part of ecosystems, and organisms have adapted to their local climate over time. Climate change has potential to alter these ecosystems and the services they provide to each other and to human society at large. The services provided by the ecosystems already sustain half the human population worldwide. It is well known that climate change is taking place globally. The global changes in the temperature, rainfall, etc. are the indications of climate change. The change of weather over a period of time is known as climate. Over the last 150 to 200 years, climate change has been taking place too rapidly, and certain plant and animal species have found it hard to adapt. Human activities are said to be responsible for the speed at which this change has occurred, and it is now a cause of concern to scientists, policymakers, and the governments across the globe. Now, students, we can see what are the different causes of the climate change. So we divide into the two categories, natural cause and the man-induced causes. Under the natural cause, if we see, there are a number of natural factors responsible for climate change. Some of the more prominent ones are continental drift, volcanoes, the Earth's tilt, ocean currents, and comets and meteorites. Let's look at them in a little detail. First, continental drift. The drift of continents is a continuing phenomenon. The Himalayan range is rising by about 1 millimeter every year because the Indian landmass is moving towards the Asian landmass slowly but steadily. Continents that we are familiar with today were formed when the landmass began gradually drifting apart millions of years back. This drift also had an impact on the climate because it changed the physical features of the landmass, their positions, and the position of water bodies. The separation of the land masses changed the flow of ocean currents and winds, which affected the climate. Now we can see the volcanoes. When a volcano erupts, it throws out large volumes of sulfur dioxide, water vapor, dust, and ash into the atmosphere, leading to cooling for a few years. Although the volcanic activity lasts only a few days, yet the large volumes of gases and ash influence climatic patterns for years. Sulfur dioxide combines with water to form tiny droplets of sulfuric acid. These droplets are so small that many of them can stay aloft for several years. Winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere, called the stratosphere, carry the aerosols rapidly around the globe, causing cooling in the atmosphere. The volcanic eruptions at Mount Pinatubo in the Philippine Islands in April 1991 and Tambora in Indonesia in 1815 are the striking example of volcanoes eruptions. Now we see the tilting of Earth. The Earth makes 1 foot orbit around the Sun each year. It is tilted at an angle of 23.5 degree to the perpendicular plane of its orbital path. For half of the year when it is summer, the northern hemisphere tilts towards the Sun. In the other half, when it is winter, the Earth is tilted away from the Sun. If there was no tilt, we would not have experienced seasons. Changes in the tint of the Earth can affect the severity of the seasons. More tint means warmer summers and colder winters. Less tint means cooler summers and milder winters. This gradual change in the direction of the Earth's axis, called precession, is responsible for changes in the climate. Now we see the ocean currents. The oceans are a major component of the climatic system. They cover about 71% of the Earth and absorb about twice as much of the sun's radiation as the atmosphere or the land surface. Ocean currents move vast amount of heat across the planet, roughly the same amount as the atmosphere does. But the oceans are surrounded by land masses, so heat transport through the water is through channels. Winds push horizontally against the sea surface and drive ocean currents patterns. Much of the heat that escapes from the oceans are in the form of water vapor, also contributes to the formation of clouds which sets the surface and have a net cooling effect. Now, man-induced causes for the climate change, and it includes agricultural practices, deforestation, increase in global temperature, greenhouse effect, etc. First, we see the agriculture. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the three main causes of increase in greenhouse gases observed over the past 250 years have been fossil fuels, land use, and agriculture. Agriculture has been shown to produce significant effects on climate change, primarily through the production and release of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Agriculture enters the Earth's land cover, which can change its ability to absorb or reflect heat and light, contributing to climate change. Land use change such as deforestation and desertification, together with use of fossil fuels, are the major anthropogenic sources of carbon dioxide. Deforestation, if we see, then forests help to absorb almost 20% of man-made carbon dioxide emissions and thus play a major role to control climate. Cutting down forests faster than they can be replaced has a devastating effect on the carbon emission cycle, producing an extra 17% of greenhouse gases. Deforestation by means of cutting down and burning these tropical rainforests usually pave the way for agriculture and industry, which often produce even more carbon dioxide. It is proved beyond doubt that climate change and forests are interlinked. The increased destruction of the rainforest, forming a precious cooling band around the Earth's equator, is recognized as one of the main causes of climate change. Forests trap and store carbon dioxide and play a major role in mitigating climate change. Forests reduce greenhouse gas emissions to combat global warming. 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions result from deforestation and degradation of forest, more than all the world's cars, trucks, ships, and planes combined. Fossil fuels release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, contributing to global warming and climate change. Forests alleviates this change by converting carbon dioxide to carbon during photosynthesis. Now we see the global temperature. The assessment report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says that the Earth's average temperature has risen by risen by 0.74 degrees in the period from 2006 to 2015, and that the average temperature will continue to rise. The greenhouse effect is a natural mechanism that retains the heat emitted from the Earth's surface. The Earth's average temperature is at the moment around 14 degrees Celsius and 57 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, what is greenhouse effect? Life on Earth depends on energy from the sun. You all know. About 30% of the sunlight that beams towards Earth is reflected by the outer surface, outer atmosphere, and scattered back into space. The rest reaches the planet's surface and is reflected upward again as a type of slow-moving energy called infrared radiation. The heat caused by infrared radiation is absorbed by greenhouse gases such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, ozone, and methane, which slows its escape from the atmosphere. Although greenhouse gases make up only about 1% of the Earth's atmosphere, they regulate our climate by trapping heat and holding it in a kind of warm air blanket that surrounds the planet. And this phenomenon is called the greenhouse effect. Without it, the average temperature on Earth would be colder by approximately 30 degrees Celsius, that is 54 degrees Fahrenheit, far too cold to sustain our current ecosystem. My dear students, now you can see this picture, the greenhouse effect. As you see in the picture, that sun is the ultimate source of energy, and solar radiation powers the climate system, and some solar radiation is reflected by the Earth and the atmosphere. And you can see here some of the infrared radiation passes through the atmosphere, but most is absorbed and re-emitted in all directions by greenhouse gas molecules and clouds. The effect of this is to warm the Earth's surface and the lower atmosphere. About half the solar radiation is absorbed by the Earth's surface and warms it. Infrared radiation is emitted from the Earth's surface. The greenhouse effect is a natural phenomenon that plays a central role in determining the Earth's climate. The greenhouse effect means progressive warming up of the Earth's surface due to the blanketing effect of man-made carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This mechanism keeps the greenhouse warmer from the outside environment. In nutshell, greenhouse is the body which allows the short wave incoming solar radiation to come in but does not allow the long wave outgoing terrestrial infrared radiation to escape. Carbon dioxide and water vapor act as a greenhouse agent. They allow visible light of the sun to reach the surface of the Earth but absorb and reflect back the long wave outgoing terrestrial radiation, mainly infrared rays, and thus help in keeping the Earth's surface warmer. Now we see what are the remedial measures to decrease the increasing greenhouse effect. Drastic cut in the consumption of the fossil fuels. The Toronto World Conference held at Toronto, Canada in June 1988 called for 20% voluntary reduction in the emissions of carbon dioxide by the year 2005 so that the greenhouse effect may be minimized or at least may be stabilized and the possible climatic changes at regional global levels may be prevented. The other remedies are alternative sources of energy. The scientists must discover and develop alternative sources of energy and power and improved better technologies. For example, more serious researchers are required to assess and evaluate the potentials of methanol derived from methane as the major source of fuel to be used in the transport sector. Thus, methanol may be expected to be a substitute for petroleum. Efficient technologies. More advanced and efficient technologies should be developed so that maximum energy may be derived from the use of existing fossil fuels and emissions of carbon dioxide may be minimized. The internal combustion energies should be improved and maintained properly so that the maximum benefits may be derived from minimum use of petroleum and emissions of carbon dioxide, nitrous oxides, etc. may be reduced to maximum degree. Solar energy may be developed as alternative to the conventional fossil fuel energy, at least in those tropical and subtropical countries where sunlight is available during most period of the year. Large-scale afforestation and reforestation will certainly reduce the greenhouse effect. It is a well-known fact that the forests are big natural sink of carbon dioxide. Greenery of the landscape is the only immediate solution of ever-increasing greenhouse effect caused by ever-increasing concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now we see the ozone hole and ozone depletion. As you know, there are two different types of ozone depletion. The first one has been a slow but steady ozone depletion of 3 to 4% per decade of the Earth's stratosphere. This has been happening constantly since the 1970s. The other is a much larger, although seasonal loss of ozone over the polar regions and Antarctic. This yearly occurrence is called the ozone hole. The springtime ozone hole is the result of emissions mainly in the northern hemisphere of chlorofluorocarbons and the halogens. These gases are in widespread use in refrigeration, industrial solvents and fire control. The gases are broken down into their constituents over the tropics and circulate towards both poles. Only over the Antarctic during winter it is cold enough for clouds to form in the ozone layer, and here chemical reactions on the cloud surfaces convert chlorine into an active form. When the sunlight comes back in the spring, this activated chlorine destroys ozone at about 1% per day, leading to the ozone hole. Now you can see in this slide, that is the how global temperature is increasing yearly. Like if you see the 1816, the temperature it is 0.2, and if you see the 2000, how increased in a high level. In this slide also you can see that how temperature is deviating year wise, and it is increasing due to the global warming and other causes. If you see what are the causes of the ozone depletion, as you know that there are many causes for ozone depletion, but the most important is the process of catalytic destruction of ozone by atomic chlorine and bromine. Both come from the breaking down of chlorofluorocarbons, freon, by photons in the atmosphere. Let us discuss chlorofluorocarbons to know the causes of ozone depletion. As you know that chlorofluorocarbons were discovered by American chemist Thomas Midgley in 1930s and have been used in refrigerators, home insulation, plastic foam and throwaway food containers. Researchers by Sir Wood Rowland and Mario Molina in 1974 provide that chlorofluorocarbons have the catastrophic effect on the stratosphere. The conclusive proof of damage was discovery of ozone layer hole over Antarctica in 1984. It is estimated that release of chlorofluorocarbons accounted for 80% of all stratospheric ozone depletion. In fact, chlorofluorocarbons are man-made chemicals that are very stable in the atmosphere. They take 20 to 120 years to break down, and on the while they keep on destroying ozone molecules. Chlorofluorocarbons do not fall back to earth with rain, nor are they destroyed by other chemicals. Chlorofluorocarbons rise into the stratosphere due to their relative stability and eventually break down by ultraviolet rays from the sun. This leads to release chlorine. The chlorine reacts with oxygen, which leads to the chemical process of destroying ozone molecules. The net result is that 2 molecules of ozone are replaced by 3 of molecular oxygen leaving. The chlorine then reacts again with the oxygen molecules to destroy the ozone, and the process repeats 1 lakh times per molecule. While naturally occurring chlorine has the same effect on the ozone layer, it has a shorter lifespan in the atmosphere, and thus its effects are considerably minimal. Now we see that what are the effects of ozone depletion. The most important function of that stratospheric ozone is to protect the troposphere and the Earth's surface from most of the ultraviolet solar radiation by absorbing ultraviolet rays. Thus, the ozone layer serves as an umbrella or shield against the ultraviolet solar radiation and saves the Earth's surface from becoming too hot. The most dangerous effect of ozone depletion would be substantial increase in the ultraviolet solar radiation reaching the Earth's surface. The increased ultraviolet solar radiation in turn would raise the temperature of the Earth's surface and the lower atmosphere. This would trigger a chain of effects and counter effects which would adversely affect the life forms in the biosphere in a variety of ways. As you know, its severe effects on the climate, human and animal health, terrestrial plants, aquatic ecosystems, biogeochemical cycles, air quality, even on the non-living materials. If we see that how we can protect and maintain of the ozone layer from the depletion and from the hole. That first cause is as you know, the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone, signed in September 1987 at Montreal, Canada by 35 developed countries of the world, is the first concrete step in this regard. The signing of this Montreal Protocol was made possible because of continued efforts and negotiations made by the United Nations Environment Programme. And in that it was discussed that we should search for alternative technology and substitute chemicals. New techniques should be developed so that leakage of these gases may be stopped and new efficient equipments may be used to handle these gases. A few substitute chemicals claimed to be chlorine free have been developed. For example, a US-based petroleum company has developed BioAct EC7, a biodegradable, non-toxic and non-corrosive chemical known as HFC 134, a trade name which may be used in place of Freon 12 in air conditioners and refrigerator. This chemical is claimed to be free from chlorine. A new chemical called CFC22 has been developed in the USA as a substitute for Freon 11 and Freon 12. If you see that what is the Montreal Protocol and India's commitment in this ozone protection. The Montreal Protocol was signed in September 1987 by 35 developed countries of the world at Montreal, Canada. It is an international agreement to address the causes of ozone depletion, while several substances were addressed, CHCS and HCFCS, were the main ones that the international community agreed to phase out of production. The following provisions were commonly agreed by the countries which signed the said protocol. To freeze the production of chlorofluorocarbons at 1986 level by 1989. To decrease the production of these synthetic chemical compounds by 20% by the end of 1993, to allow further 30% cut in the production of these chemicals by 1998, to freeze the production of halons at 1986 level starting from 1992. Thus, the total production of ozone depleting chemicals, mainly chlorofluorocarbons and halogens, would be reduced according to Montreal Protocol by 50% by the beginning of 1999. The protocol also developed a fund to help underdeveloped countries to find other methods of production so that they could stop using chlorofluorocarbon and halogens also. Now, Indian commitment to Montreal Protocol. India signed the Montreal Protocol along with its London Amendment on 17 September 1992 and also ratified the Copenhagen, Montreal and Beijing Amendments on 3rd March 2003. Thereafter, Government of India as a party to the Montreal Protocol has taken a number of initiatives for precautionary measures, continues its action, measures and adoption of necessary regulations with the sole objective of protection of ozone layer. Now we can discuss the acid rain. Acid rains have often assumed one of the grave ecological problem nowadays. Acid precipitation is a mixture of strong mineral acids such as sulfuric acid, nitric acid, hydrochloric acids having less than 5.6 pH. the value of distilled water in equilibrium with atmospheric carbon dioxide. The term acid rain refers to the fall of acids mixed with rain and snow. The phenomenon of acid rain was identified in Manchester, England way back in 1852 and described more thoroughly in 1872 by Robert Angus Smith, a scientist working in Manchester. Acid is a substance with a sour taste that will react with a base to form a salt. Acids turn blue litmus paper, also called pH paper, red. Strong acids can burn your skin. A pH scale is used to measure the amount of acid in a liquid like water. The acid content is based on the concentration of hydrogen ions and is expressed as pH. This scale is used to measure the acidity of rain samples. In the slide, you can see that how the pH scale is there and how it shows the acidic, neutral and alkaline. Now, how the acid rain is formed. The oxides of sulfur and nitrogen are important gaseous pollutants of air. These are produced mainly by combustion of fossil fuels, smelters, power plants, automobile exhausts, domestic fires, etc. Swept up into the atmosphere, these oxides can travel thousands of kilometers. The longer they stay in the atmosphere, the more likely they are to be oxidized into acids. Sulfuric acid and nitric acid are the two main acids which dissolve in water in the atmosphere and fall to the ground as acid rains or may remain in atmosphere in clouds and fogs. In this picture, you can see the acid like air pollution, acidified clouds they form due to the air pollution and how it that rain drops at the earth comes with the acid. And it damaged the forest and lake, soil, and it deposited in on the earth with some soils and with some products, and this deposition is very harmful for the living and even the non-living things. You can also see in this picture how the acid rain forms. When rain comes, you know that rain contains the hydrogen and oxygen H2O, and in the atmosphere due to the pollution, sulfur dioxide, nitric oxide already is there, and with the reaction of this sulfur dioxide with the hydrogen ion, they form the sulfuric acid and again nitric oxide, nitric acid, and these acids comes with rain and it deposited in the soil and it goes in the lake also, water bodies also, and it badly damaged to the vegetation and the non-living things. So, if you see the causes of acid rain, natural causes are the volcanic emissions, biological process, lightning, and if you see the anthropogenic causes or man-made causes, these are the like factories, industrialization, motor vehicles, automobile exhaust, coal-based power plants, domestic fires, and the smelters. And as you know, the acidification of environment is man-made phenomenon. The acid rain is a cocktail of sulfuric acid and nitric acid. The ratio of the two may vary depending on the relative quantities of the oxides of sulfur and nitrogen emitted. On an average, 60 to 70% of the acidity is ascribed to sulfuric acid and 30 to 40% to nitric acid. If we see the more causes of acid rain are rapid industrialization, burning of fossil fuels for power generation contributes to almost 60 to 70% of total sulfur dioxide emitted globally. Anthropogenic sources, emissions of nitric oxide from anthropogenic sources ranges between 20 to 90 million tons annually over the globe. And if you see the natural causes, like these are vegetation, volcanoes and geysers which contribute sulfur dioxide and nitric oxide. The most significant is formic acid, and forest fires also one of the cause of the acid rain. Biomass burning due to the forest fires causes emissions of formic acid, and formaldehyde gets oxidized to formic acid in the atmosphere. Effects of acid rain on both living and non-living things. if it affected badly the trees and soils, and great damage is done when sulfuric acid falls on the earth as a rain, acid rain. Nutrients present in the soils are washed away. Ammonium also present in the soil is freed, and these toxic elements are absorbed by the roots of trees. Thus, the trees are starved to death as they are deprived of their vital nutrients such as calcium and magnesium. And there are several routes through which acidic chemicals can enter the lakes and other water bodies. Some chemical substances exist as dry particles in the air, while others enter the lakes as wet particles such as rain, snow, sleet, hail, dew, or fog. In addition, lakes can almost be thought of as the sinks of the earth, where rain that falls on land is drained through the sewage systems, eventually make their way into the lakes. Acid rain that falls onto the earth washes off the nutrients out of the soil and carries toxic metals that have been released from the soil into the lakes. Acid rain also damages non-living things, materials such as fabrics, buildings, etc. For example, flags that are put up are being eaten away by the acidic chemicals in the precipitation. Books and age-old art that are centuries old are also being affected. The ventilation systems of the libraries and museums that hold them do not prevent the acidic particles from entering the buildings, and so they get in and circulate within the buildings, affecting and deteriorating the materials. Among one of the serious side effects of acid pollution on humans is respiratory problems. The sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide emissions give rise to respiratory problems such as asthma, dry coughs, headaches, eyes, nose, and throat irritations. An indirect effect of acid precipitation on humans is that the toxic metals dissolved in the water are absorbed in fruits, vegetables, and in the tissues of animals. Although these toxic metals do not directly affect the animals, they have serious effects on humans when they are being consumed. For example, mercury that accumulates in the organs and tissues of the animals has been linked with brain damage in children as well as nervous disorders, brain damage, and death. Similarly, another metal, ammonium, present in the organs of the animals has been associated with kidney problems and recently was suspected to be related to Alzheimer's disease. Some of the constituents of acid pollution are sulfates, nitrates, hydrocarbons, and ozone. These exist as dry particles in the air and contributes to haze affecting visibility. This makes navigation especially hard for air pilots. Acid haze also interferes with the flow of sunlight from the sun to the earth and back. Acid particles are also deposited onto buildings and statues, causing corrosion. For example, the Capitol building in Ottawa has been disintegrated because of excess sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere. Limestone and marble turn to a crumbling substance called gypsum upon contact with the acid, which explains the corrosion of buildings and statues. 1967, the bridge over the Ohio River collapsed, killing 46 people due to corrosion caused by acid rain. You can see in this slide that acid rain affected even the non-material things like buildings. As you know that Taj Mahal in Agra is also suffering due to acid fumes from Mathura refinery. And in Greece and Italy, invaluable stone statues have been partially dissolved by acid rain. It is very essential to, we have to control these acids to destroy the living and non-living things of the earth. And effects of acid rain, especially on fish and wildlife resources, cannot be directly countered without reducing or eliminating the sources of pollution. However, some measures may be taken locally to counter acidification of streams, soil, and rest of the environment. And if you see that some of the measures are buffering through adding a neutralizing agent such as lime in the form of calcium oxide and calcium carbonate to the acidified water to increase the pH. Breeding of hatching fish in acidified waters replenishes fish population that would otherwise decline, thus helping to maintain an ecological balance within acidified lakes. prevention of the emission of excess sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides from industries through legislation by the government to regulate the emissions towards decreasing emissions of sulfur dioxide from power stations by burning less fossil fuels using alternate energy sources like tidal, wind, hydropower, etc. And we have to use low sulfur fuel, then desulfurization, decrease in emissions of nitric oxide from power stations, and we also use the modified engines which are not become the causes of the acid production. So in this way, thank you so much. And if you have any question, any queries, you can ask anytime. And my phone number is 9434409857. You can WhatsApp me. You can I given in the slide my mail number, mail address and WhatsApp number. You can WhatsApp me and mail me anytime if you have any facing the any problem regarding these chapters and these topics. You can mail me, you can WhatsApp me, so I can try to solve your questions. And I'm very happy if I help you in the preparation of your NET exam. Thank you so much.